Hello, and welcome to the THC Show. This is a show where we talk about truth, hope, and change to do with THC, but also it's the show where we've been pursuing the Cannabis Substitution Program and the Healing Wave, trying to get licensed by the federal government. And we do certainly have some updates on what's going on with that for this week's show. Also on the show today, we'll have 8 out of 10 Glenn from CannaMatch.ca join us for the 420 session as always. And we will be going out to the Healing Wave CSP Ganja Mobile to do an update on what it's like in Vancouver after over a year and a half of selling cannabis and providing cannabis to people to get off opioids on the downtown east side of Vancouver in the hopes of getting some sort of government permission and support to do that. So we'll check in on all of that. But today's show is brought to you with a very heavy heart. Again. The cannabis community has lost another one of our amazing people. And this is such a bad one. Bert Easterbrook, the son of Guppy, was an incredible human being, and we lost him. And if you're just finding that out for the first time, I'm sorry to be the bearer of such bad news. It was a terrible freak accident that no one could have foreseen, and really nothing could ever be done about it, except love your friends, hug your friends, your family, the people that you love. Because you never know if that's the last time you're going to see them. I saw Bert at 420. And that's the last time I'm going to be able to see him. I was at his house the week before, getting a haircut, visiting with him and his family. His amazingly compassionate wife, Talia, and their 2 young boys, Halden and Davin. Bert was a big man and had some physical issues as a result of it. He had some back issues. He was simply moving from one room of his house to another. He was in the hallway. His back spasmed, went out on him, caused him to collapse. He collapsed headfirst into a doorknob. He couldn't breathe. He went unconscious and they couldn't revive him. Bert will be sorely missed. I can't really properly explain who he was as a human being. He was an elder before his time, and really should have been an elder for us for 40 or more years to come. Such a wise human being. And I know why he was like that. Because his dad was a very good friend of mine as well. And Dave Easterbrook, or Guppy as we knew him, was also an incredible human being. He had lived a wonderful life and learned a lot of things along the way that he was more than willing to pass on to people, and he passed them on to his son. And his son was living out Guppy's legacy, changing the world, doing amazing things. Bert was a photographer for us, for cannabis culture, and for all of our rallies and protests for a long time. He captured so many of the moments that are important to this movement as we move forward. We're certainly going to miss that. For me, Bert became such a close friend. When I decided in 2005 that I needed to go across Canada to teach people what I had learned about the evils of prohibition and the value of cannabis and what the nature of freedom is and what the role of government is supposed to be, Bert became a big part of that. In 2007, on the second Freedom Tour, he was my escort as I inline skated Vancouver Island again. When I got to Ottawa 5 months later, Bert drove all the way to Ottawa to drive me home. We had a interesting trip back, as we always did have interesting times together. Bert was a hero. He wasn't just my hero and the hero of the cannabis community, but he was actually a mainstream hero. When the Stanley Cup riots happened in 2011, Bert was in the middle of it. Couldn't stand seeing what he was seeing. He never hurt anybody, although he did punch one guy real hard because that guy was burning a truck to the ground, and Bert was trying to prevent that. Bert did lots of things that night. Got injured in the process. People were attacking him for trying to stop the rioters. Bert was given an honorary hero's certificate. I'm not sure what that was about, but the City Hall had a ceremony for Bert and declared him a municipal hero and gave him some sort of a certificate for that. Bert was proud of that because he was proud of himself, as he should have been. But that changed in 2015 when the City of Vancouver had the VPD come and brutally interfere with our Cannabis Day plans for the art gallery. Bert was arrested along with myself and a few others. He was so disheartened by the actions of the city and the VPD that he had his own little ceremony at City Hall where he burned that certificate. Bert was a man of principles. He was the most stand-up guy I ever met. You would never want anybody but Bert there. He would be your number one choice if you were in trouble in any way, shape, or form. He was selfless, compassionate, full of love, a big heart, patient, understanding, insightful, and the list goes on. He was my friend. He was a strong pillar of this community. Him and his father both are icons and legends here, and he will be missed greatly. But his work will continue. I'm sure his boys will be infused with much of his spirit. We all feel his spirit, and he'll live on through all of us for a long, long time. We will take him and his father's idea of honesty and integrity with us as we move forward and try to make this world a better place. He will be missed, and his impact will be felt for a very long time. But it's so tragic. It is so tragic. It happened so fast. Nobody could foresee it. Bert didn't wake up that morning thinking that was going to be his last day. So, sorry to start the show on such a somber note, but here we are again. Last year we lost Greg Williams, another amazing icon of our movement. The year before it was Jason Wilcox, and there's so many others. There's many others. I don't want to start naming names. There's so many people we've lost. So for those that are still around us, let's appreciate them. Let's let them know they're appreciated. Love them, hug them, call them, think about them, and realize that life is precious and it's really, really fragile, and you never know when you're about to take your last breath. My good friend Johnny B, we're also very lucky to still have with us here today. Big red pickup truck blew through a stop sign, broadsided him right on the driver's door. I don't know how he survived, but he's okay, thankfully. At least as okay as you can be after having something like that happen. I had a car hit me like that once, and I never get that image out of my mind of my car melting all around me and caving in on me, and I didn't quite understand what was going on until moments later. Anyway, live your life. Love your friends and family. Have as much fun as you can all the time. Life is precious. Life is sacred. And it can be snuffed out in an instant for any one of us. And that can be the end. So let's take that with us as we move forward. On to other things. On to cannabis-related things. Although Bert certainly had a lot to do with cannabis and our movement to get freedom and legalization. He was a huge advocate of medical cannabis and one of the most insightful people when it came to discussing it, for sure. You all know, if you've watched the show before, or even if you haven't, I'm sure you know, the world is all messed up. We're controlled by a bunch of the rich people who think they can just do as they wish with us, and they wish to do all kinds of things with us because that's just what gives them their energy and their juice. They wish to profit off of us in enormous ways, and they have been for a long time. They're the scourge that has caused our economy to be such that most people can't even afford to live in this area of the world. And if you can, it's only because you're making pretty big dollars, because those people that aren't can't afford life. And it's because of those billionaires that are gouging us every step of the way, forcing all kinds of different stuff on us at higher prices than we should be paying and all the rest of it. And it's governments. It's governments that are in collusion with these corporations that are allowing this to happen. Individual members of government that are profiting on the side by what they're doing. That's corruption. On the cannabis file, it's been corrupt right since the beginning. 99 and a half years ago. 99 and a half years ago in Canada, they made cannabis illegal. Because of a bunch of hype that was coming out of the United States, primarily driven by William Randolph Hearst and all of his newspapers across the country that were demonizing cannabis for his own personal agenda of wanting to control wood waste paper, for example, and other things that were going on there. He was also good friends with the Dow Chemical brothers and their interests in profiting off of things that were able to be used by cannabis, but they didn't want that. So they demonized the hell out of cannabis. William Randolph Hearst was the biggest player in doing that through the media. Up here in Canada, suffragette Emily Murphy picked up on that, decided to use it as a sensational way to sell books and make money, and wrote The Black Candle about illicit drugs in the world. Put a chapter in there about cannabis, said marijuana, the new menace. Lied through her teeth about it. Maybe she just believed what was being written in William Randolph Hearst's newspapers. Probably not. But maybe. Maybe. In any case, her chapter on marijuana, cannabis, demonized it to the nth degree. People would have super strength, no morals, be unable to feel pain if they were injured, murder, rape, go on terrible sprees of violence and mayhem, get horribly addicted, and end up dying a horrible death because of the drug. That's, in a nutshell, you can look it up for yourself. This story ran in Maclean's magazine in 1922. 1923, 6 months after that story ran, is when the government of Canada, based on that story, made cannabis illegal. They've known for a long time that it shouldn't be illegal, though. I don't know if they were just doing what they thought was right at the time, if maybe they were just scared because of what they'd been told and they were just reacting and trying to protect the Canadian public. I don't know. Maybe. But it wasn't too long after that that they knew. For sure by the 60s they knew. They knew by the Ledane Commission in Canada. They knew that there shouldn't be criminal penalties against people for cannabis. They knew it. But by that time, in the 60s, police budgets were dependent on cannabis prohibition. So many other enforcement agencies making big dollars off of prohibition. The government, even, in the sale of alcohol, didn't want to have to compete with cannabis. So they made it illegal and kept it illegal when they shouldn't have. They used the heaviest criminal penalties you can imagine. In the United States, they were putting people away for long-term 10, 15, 20-year prison sentences for small amounts of cannabis, especially if it was your third offense. Here in Canada, over 50,000 people arrested every year for cannabis, or charged every year, more than that arrested, more than that interfered with, more than that having their cannabis seized and their evenings ruined and all the rest of it that went along with it. Horrible campaign that lasted decades here, that resulted in many, many Canadians protesting, but far more than that, breaking the law. Millions of Canadians, tens of millions, many tens of millions of United States citizens breaking the criminal law. Unprecedented in history. Criminality is just for a small percentage of the population. Not for millions of Canadians breaking criminal law, but that's what happened. Every year after year after year, millions of Canadians openly breaking criminal law in Canada, causing great disrespect for the police and law enforcement and government, undermining our judicial system all the way through, resulting in corrupt judges giving people penalties when there was no crime done. There was no damage done to anybody. There was no intent to cause damage. None of that became relevant in the courts of Canada. All that mattered is that the government said you couldn't have it, and if you did have it, or if you did sell it, or if you did grow it, then you were subject to criminal penalties. Insane. Total insanity. We constitutionally challenged that once we got the charter in place. We won. 15 times we won. in the Supreme Court of Canada challenging their policies on cannabis. Hardly changed a thing. Time after time, all they would do was slight, silly little amendments that wouldn't satisfy the courts, and back we would go again. Finally, they decide to legalize because public opinion is so much on the side of the cannabis consumers and so much against criminalizing, especially our young people, for something as stupid as just wanting to inhale some magical vapors from a dried flower in hopes of feeling better. Not a crime, not something to ruin our young people's lives over. Public opinion, year after year, was more and more against the prohibition of cannabis. So finally, the government did something about it. The Liberal government, running from lower than opposition status after having been wiped out by scandal in the years before, came out and said they were going to legalize cannabis for everyone. Said that the medical patients would have no more worries. Well, they didn't legalize cannabis for everyone. They legalized cannabis production and distribution to the lucky few that can get expensive licenses and go along with the government's ridiculous regulations that result in prices that are beyond the average person's reach. Certainly the daily users can't afford what they got in the government stores. And anybody who needed high-dose edibles, which is most of the people that are using it for medical purposes, and certainly anybody trying to get off of opioids, which is a really big thing, certainly they're left out of legalization. Poor people, sick people, non-rich people, they're all left out of this legalization. This is not legalization. Still criminal penalties all over the place for cannabis. More than before. $6.5 million fine levied against Ted Smith and the Cannabis Buyers Club. That never happened before legalization. This is a sham and a farce and a criminal takeover or attempted takeover of the cannabis industry by corrupt governments on behalf of corrupt corporations. And that's what's going on. So the fight continues, and we will continue it. Buoyed by the loss of our friends, we will continue it. In their name, we will continue it. With them in our hearts and souls, we will continue it. We will continue to have protests until they get it right, and we will continue to break the law until they stop having stupid laws that hurt people, that are designed only to make money for corrupt rich people. We will continue. In any case, I think we're at 420, which is always good, especially when I get going like I do, because, enough negativity. We do like to keep a balance of positivity going on, and 420 is that one time or two times of the day, depending on how you're doing your life. One for me. I'm sound asleep by the second one. But for the first one, it's a really good time of the day to take a little break, to do a little bit of contemplating, inject a little positivity through the magical vapors of that sacred herb that we're spending so much time talking about, and the government is spending so much money trying to keep us from using. That means that if it's 420, CannaMatch.ca, Glenn Wells must be close by. Where are you, Glenn? Look at that, he just appeared out of nowhere.
Happy 420.
Talk about magical vapors. How you doing, my friend?
Good, how are you?
I'm good.
Yeah. Here, buddy. Come on. I'm here for you. Yeah. I'm here for you. You know that.
We're all here for each other until we're not.
Yeah.
And rest in peace, Bert, my good friend.
He was a great man.
I hope there is some pool of spirits that manage to get together and have a decent afterlife.
Have a great 420 up there.
And I hope that Bert's with his pops, and Greg is there, and there's almost getting to be as good a group up there as there is down here.
And they'd be smoking that heavenly pot too.
Yeah. I'm sure they got only the best weeds there.
Heavenly cannabis, yeah. Best taste, best smell. There's a bigger one for you.
I'm going to just finish this one off so I get it out of my little toker. There's the Gibson mustache toker.
Yeah.
I'm sure he loves me advertising him because he likes nothing more than spending all day, every day trying to keep up with the orders.
And then today
it kind of became his life after a while.
Today you're smoking some Granddaddy Banner from the herbalist. And that was really nice when it was cutting up. Hey, it's got a really nice smell.
Seems very nice. That smells good.
And Neil's smoking some over there too. It's 420.
And Neil's back this week.
There he is. There it is.
Hard to get people to work every week, They They just get bored with it.
He just
not a chance. And Neil was under the weather. And when you're under the weather these days, you should stay away from other people.
Yes.
I guess that's the way to do it.
That's the new thing, yeah.
When you're getting close to people's faces, don't breathe in. If you're hugging people, breathe the air behind them. Less
bosses are saying, "Oh yeah, you're sick. Come and work." Now they agree with you. Stay home.
So, I want to talk about this a little bit.
Sure.
Legalization is such a farce. If it was good legalization, there wouldn't need to be any enforcement.
Nope.
There'd be very few people trying to sell weed anywhere because the government's got the best weed and they got the best prices, and why wouldn't you buy it from a store that you can go back and take it back to if it's not good, and all that other stuff. If legalization was something that the public wanted the way they wanted it, then they wouldn't have to have enforcement. But it's not. In fact, it is not to the point where they've got to issue $6.5 million fines against a humble cannabis dispensary helping medical patients get access to cannabis, because they're trying to show how heavy their hand is. They're trying to scare everybody else out of the even thought of doing it.
Another thing that occurred to me yesterday is that BC, the liquor board and the cannabis board are the same. But if you go to a cannabis store, it's all closed off.
Yeah, they don't have the same regs.
If you go to a liquor store, it's clear glass. You can see all the illegal, the alcohol that they're selling.
Yeah, with big advertising posters.
Exactly. Yeah. But cannabis, oh no, we've got to keep this behind frosted glass.
I've actually gone around and taken some pictures of some of these liquor outlets and the advertising that they have around them. And the Vancouver Canucks are partnered with alcohol distributors.
Yeah.
And, these other things that certainly is not available to the cannabis marketers at all.
And I even went into the private ones and I asked them if they would advertise CannaMatch, and I got told no. They can't do that.
Really, eh?
Yeah, because of the advertising that they have or something.
You're not doing nothing illegal.
I know.
Cannabis is legal now.
I know.
Why wouldn't they want their customers getting together and buying more of their product?
I don't know. But it looks like
this is what I mean. They don't need regulations like this if they're doing good things that people like. They just have to do what they do, and that'll be that for that.
Yeah.
To have to make sure that you don't advertise and you can't talk about the benefits and you can't have any kids in there and nobody gets to see what's inside, and we're going to use this ridiculous packaging that costs a fortune and you can only use it once and you can't recycle it because it's had narcotics in it, and all this nonsense.
And nowadays you can't bring your kids into a liquor store as long as they're accompanied by an adult, right?
That's right. And they serve alcohol in lounges and restaurants and cafes and bars all over the place.
Yep.
Then when you can have your kids in. Legalization is a hypocritical farce.
It is.
They're concerned about the children. You can't see a cannabis store. They can't know that that's going on. It's so dangerous for children. But you can grow 4 plants in your house. Yeah. Everybody's allowed 4 plants in their house. What about the children? Oh
and
my
it can
God!
help a lot of children too with seizures and epilepsy.
Oh yeah,
and stuff like that.
And in fact, in the Cannabis Act, there's no provision for parents allowing their children to use cannabis for the medical purposes that they would do.
From the brainwashing that it was bad for us.
Because on the one hand, the last thing they got, the whole last bastion that they've got is it harms the developing brain. Bullshit! It harms the developing brain.
Yeah.
It keeps the developing brain from being brainwashed by the government and the corporations and all of that kind of stuff. You really think about whether taxation is a reasonable thing or not. You really think about whether these corporations have your best interests or not. Cannabis is a vehicle to insight. It causes people to think about what's going on around them. You're not brain dead like with alcohol. With alcohol, everything becomes fuzzy. Yeah. You're not thinking straight about nothing. With cannabis, you're wide awake. That's the reason it impairs people if you're not used to it. Yeah. It's because people aren't used to being that wide awake. They're not used to having their senses enhanced that way. Yeah. They're not used to music sounding that profound or sunsets looking that beautiful or food tasting that good.
Yeah.
And you get used to that after the first few times you try cannabis. You realize, wow, man, being high is awesome. Wow, that's why wow, man, was the whole thing about being high.
It's the clarity,
It's clarity of what's going on around you, which at first is disorienting.
Yeah.
So you need to understand how it's affecting your senses, how things are being enhanced, and then when you're used to it, then getting high is a wonderful
40 years,
experience.
I'm used to it.
Why do people want to get high all the time? They like getting high.
Yeah.
Getting high is good. Food tastes better. Sex feels better.
And even our environment would be better if we were allowed to grow cannabis and hemp, because it takes in so much of the carbon dioxide.
Oh, for sure. Well, there's a million reasons.
We probably wouldn't have to pay these environmental taxes because the planet would be a lot better off. Right?
So
we'd
now,
have a lot more trees, we'd have a lot more oxygen, we'd have the plants taking up the carbon dioxide.
I know. There's so many reasons to embrace the cannabis plant.
It is.
But we've lived with 100 years of prohibition, with lies about why cannabis should be prohibited, with a bunch of people making money off the prohibition of cannabis that don't want to give that up.
Yeah.
It's really hard to turn this thing around.
It is.
So they have to force it on us. And so they're trying an extremely hostile takeover of the cannabis industry. This, estimates of $7 to $9 billion a year in British Columbia in cannabis sales prior to legalization.
Yeah.
So they want to take that industry over. They want to wipe out all the people that were involved in that, people that had lived, become entrenched in earning money by growing plants and trading them to feed their kids and to pay their mortgage or whatever it is they need. So those people, upon legalization, being told that, now, we have legalization, so you can't keep growing because you're going to be illegal if you do that. They were illegal before legalization. The fact that they're still illegal after legalization, that's not going to stop them from providing the cannabis to the people that are holding money out to them.
Yeah. And
So
it's because it's way better than what they get the government's.
And as it turns out, you wait and see, right?
Yeah.
You don't know when that's going to happen. A lot of people actually shut down their grows when legalization happened because they didn't think there was going to be a good market for their product. Lots of people did.
Yeah.
And then you look to see what happens, and you realize, well, these government stores aren't providing what most Canadians want in the way of cannabis. They can't be supported because they're still involved in prohibition.
Yeah.
They're using packaging that no Canadian wants to have anything to do with. The prices are beyond reach for most people. And in fact, after legalization, the whole idea was that the price comes back down to earth.
Yeah.
Not
go up.
Not go up.
$15 a gram.
So, when the government...
yeah.
And Trudeau said that, too. He said that in the lead up to his election, that, they were gonna knock the illegal market right out because their prices were going to be better and their quality was going to be better.
I don't think so. Yeah,
I don't know if he was just lying or if he's delusional.
He had he had the people to do that. They were all in jail. He just had to get them out.
That's right.
Get all the growers that they put in jail to start growing for the government, and then they would have maybe had a good chance of doing that.
He needed to do what he was saying out of one side of his mouth that he was going to do, is have lower prices and better quality.
Yeah.
If you do that, if you allow good quality growers into the marketplace with low barriers to get in there, like not a big high licensing fee, not a bunch of restrictions, and not fear of arrest for non-compliance and all the rest of that. You allow and encourage people to enter the marketplace. You make it easy for them to do that. Then you make sure as a government that the pricing, at least there's pricing there for the people that are daily users and that need it all the time. I mean, it's not up to the government to say you can't have high prices.
Yeah.
People want to pay high prices.
Yeah.
That's between consenting adults.
I would pay a high price for a joint that would fucking put me off my house after smoking a quarter of it or something. Right?
And you might pay that money for a joint that you could just tell people was better than theirs.
Yeah.
Some people are like that. They don't. I paid more than you did for mine.
Yeah.
When
I was walking around,
it doesn't work with government weed.
Cigar, people would sort of turn it down and go, when was the last time you got offered a $150 joint? And then they would take a puff of it, right? Because that doesn't happen very often, right? So, yeah.
So anyway, if it was something that the people wanted, then they wouldn't have to have all this stupid enforcement and all the rest of it. There's also a big split in the indigenous communities with respect to how they're going to go about providing cannabis. Some of them have been swayed by the government bribes and threats, and have decided to go along with having government-produced cannabis in their government licensed stores on their lands. And others have not. Others have said no. This is another encroachment on our freedoms, on our sovereignty. And we're going to control our own medicinal herbs and get it to the people the way that we think is the right way to do that.
But I don't think we should, we have to expect that with everything there's going to be people who will and people who won't. So maybe it's not call it a bad thing or a split because that's just the way it is. Right?
Sure.
There's going to be people in this band doesn't want to do legal or it wants the government weed, and there's going to be that. But
and there again, it's up to the band.
Let them do what they want.
That's
yes,
right.
We don't have to say, oh, these people are being bad because they don't do it this way.
But what's happening now is that several of the legal producers are not happy.
Yeah.
That some of the indigenous groups are not wanting to go along with it and wanting to provide for themselves. So they're now threatening to sue
Greedy bastards.
Mike Farnworth,
Yeah.
the head of the CSU here, the guy in charge of how they're going to enforce, other cannabis out of the marketplace. They're threatening to sue him, even though he is imposing $6.5 million fines on Ted and $1 million fines on other people and $500,000 fines on other people. And they got their CSU gangsters.
Who's this lawyer that's going to go ahead with this anyways? Isn't he smart enough to know that you can't push government law on people who are self-governed?
I don't know.
That just doesn't.
To me, the logistics of it.
That makes sense to me.
Yeah, the logistics of it, I can't know, and it'll be whatever it'll be. But the optics of it, the actual what's going on here is these cannabis dealers want to have the other cannabis dealers put out of business with our tax dollars so that they can gouge us with inferior flipping product. Holy crap! This is so corrupt, So corrupt.
I don't know.
So you want to talk about more corruption? You want to talk about...
Sure. Let's talk about more corruption.
All right.
So,
you know what we're doing. Most of you people know what we're doing. Maybe there's some new viewers out there. If there are, welcome. What we're doing is we're trying to provide cannabis for people so that they can get off of the opioids, because we have a public health emergency with thousands and thousands of deaths across Canada from opioids and other street drugs, most of it tainted with fentanyl, but, bad drugs killing people. And we have a solution to that. Cannabis high-dose edibles can replace those things. Yep. And more important than that, they can get a person through the withdrawal period of getting off of those things.
Yeah.
That's the biggest barrier to people that are on those street drugs and opioids, be it off the street or prescribed by doctors or whatever. The biggest barrier is the withdrawal. Cannabis high-dose edibles can get people through withdrawal. Yep. So there you go. Cannabis as a replacement for those opioids and street drugs, and as the vehicle for getting through withdrawal, is the best harm reduction strategy that's going. The very best of all the other ones that are out there, and there's a few different harm reduction strategies. Cannabis as a substitute and a replacement for those things, and cannabis as the vehicle to get through withdrawal, is by far the best. By far the best. And I'm not just saying that because I think so. I'm saying that because we have been doing it for over 5 years. This program was started 5 years ago last February. It has proceeded to give out tens of millions of milligrams of high-dose edibles. Edibles up to 500 milligrams per unit is what we provide for people here. And smoked cannabis as well. And topicals and suppositories and concentrates and everything else that you can imagine we have available for people. We've been doing that for just about 2 years now, but the high-dose edibles and the joints and stuff, we've been doing that for 5 years. We've been giving that away for 5 years. Involving many hundreds of pounds of cannabis in the process.
Many thousands of papers to roll those joints.
Thanks for the Canadian Lumber Company and the Giza people for supplying us, and George the Roller.
George rolls all those joints.
The point is, what we've been doing here is day after day after day doing a demonstration. This is a demonstration. This will demonstrate that we can put out thousands of milligrams of high-dose edibles to hundreds of people that will line up to get them, and no one will be harmed, and many will be helped. That was our demonstration. We've been doing it for 5 years. We've been doing it here on the block almost every day for almost 2 years. We're now 7 days a week here, 8 hours a day, providing that for people on the downtown east side. It's an incredible demonstration. It's an incredible amount of time. 5 years plus. Holy smokes.
Let's open a store and do it here.
Well, we tried that.
I know. They just gotta let us do it.
I mean,
we could be a model for other cities and everything, and it's saving so many lives. And even the government is the one to say that the epidemic is here. We have the answer, or a bit of an answer. There's other answers. Yes,
we have a large answer. We don't have the whole answer. Exactly. It doesn't work for everybody. There are other things that work for people. There are some people that nothing is going to work for.
Some people don't even want to.
So but we have a large answer here, and we've been demonstrating it. A demonstration is what you do to prove that what you're talking about is real. we're not proposing this. This is not us saying to the government, hey, I really believe that cannabis high-dose edibles are as good as those opioids, for dealing with people's pain. We're not just proposing that as a speculation from somebody who thinks that might be the case. Mm-hmm. We demonstrated it. We decided to demonstrate it, and we've been demonstrating it for 5 years. So it hasn't been a completely uneventful 5 years. We did start out by asking the city and asking the Vancouver Police Department for their support in what we were doing here, and went and presented to both of those groups. All I got was a thank you and a good luck from the police department. And all I got is, we don't really care to talk about it with you from the city council.
Wow.
So we just went ahead and did it.
Yeah.
And 2.5 years after demonstrating how successful it can be, and having that success documented by Dr. M.J. Malloy, the UBC professor, who had his people come and study our program and get all the data so that they could come up with the results. The results he put into peer-reviewed studies that he released that said, yes, cannabis does these things. Cannabis is effective for getting people off of opioids and for replacing the use of those things. So now, with that in hand, finally, after 2.5 years since I went and asked them about it, City Council decides that, yes, they will support what we're doing. Mm-hmm. Low barrier access to cannabis. So we find this store, as I mentioned to you, and you know that we found this store and we opened it up and we had it running beautifully and we were continuing our demonstration, but even much better.
Yeah.
Corruption in government. City Council, who passed a motion to unanimously support what we were doing, decided that they would defer to Health Canada. Before they would allow us to stay in the store, they would defer to Health Canada.
Yeah.
They had already threatened us and threatened the landlord that was renting to us. So those proceedings happened because my landlord's lawyer convinced him that he better do that or face penalties, even though he didn't want to. Yeah. So we were evicted from the store because we wouldn't, we wouldn't go freely. We immediately bought an RV because we couldn't stop doing what we were doing. No. So this project at Van Du that went for 3.5 years before we got the storefront involved hundreds of people. So when we got the storefront, we changed it from just a project of handing it away to anybody to a program where people could register and be part of the program. And so that's what we did. And we capped it at 250 originally because that was about as much as we could handle with the amount of cannabis that would require with the donations, because everything is by donations for the CSP. Speaking of which, a huge thank you to FeckoPlaybook.com for a fantastic cash donation to the CSP. Wow. That's going to allow for Winnipeg and Halifax and London to be able to continue to do what they're doing there.
Nice.
And you really need to go check out FeckoPlaybook.com.
I did. I put my story there.
They're looking for people's stories as to how cannabis has affected them in their lives. They're trying to build the world's greatest database of that type of information. Please be part of that. Please add your story to that. It's easy. They've made it very, very simple. FeckoPlaybook.com. Check that out. There's also stuff on Facebook about it. We'll get to that probably for next week's show. We'll give you some more ways to connect with Fecko Playbook. That's full extract cannabis oil, by the way. Full extract cannabis oil. Yeah. Fecko Playbook.com.
I was thinking.
So anyway, when we found out that the city was not, I'm just going to finish the story. When we found out that the city was not going to give us a license until Health Canada did, well, immediately we prepared an application for Health Canada. Jack Lloyd and John Murray, amazing lawyers, worked with us and put together a very comprehensive application. We submitted that September 16th, 2 years ago coming up. And we applied also at the same time with an emergency application for a temporary exemption from the Cannabis Act to allow us to just continue without the threat of being shut down in the meantime. That application, those applications were met with, we've received your application, we will try to process it in a timely fashion for you, and then nothing happened. We continued to bother the health minister, Patty Haydu, at the time when we were facing eviction to get her to give us a ministerial exemption so that we could stay in the store. That didn't happen. We eventually, push came to shove, we had to leave the store. Because we have these 250, now 266 plus people that are part of this program that rely on us for 420 milligrams of high-dose edibles every 4 days, we could not just stop doing that. In fact, we'd already had opinions from Dr. Malloy, from Professor Zachary Walsh, Trish, the local downtown East Side nurse, had all written us letters expressing their concern that if we were to stop doing our program, that these 250 or 60 people would be put at risk of back in the poison drug supply. And so we knew we couldn't stop. So we bought an RV that night.
Yeah.
And that next day when we were open on the Tuesday morning, there we were with an RV, and we moved our operation into the RV. We expected to be there for a month or two. That was about it. That was in November. In December, we had a meeting with Health Canada, a Zoom meeting, and they told us that they apologized for taking so long at that time. They said it was complicated, that they were afraid that if they allowed us to have the licenses to do what we wanted to do here, that would open the doors to other people who would want the same things, to which I expressed to them that would be a good thing.
Yeah.
But that was their big concern. And so anyway, they said that they would likely have those licenses in early January. This was just before Christmas, a year ago, last December.
Right.
2020.
Is it 2020?
2020. Okay. So 2021 comes along in January, and we still don't have it. So they didn't mean the next January. Maybe they mean January in 2023. I'm not sure.
Maybe.
But no, because there is a development. There is a development. We would continue to send them different stuff that explained how cannabis works for the opioid situation. In fact, my lawyer tells me that that's not necessary anymore. That's not in question anymore.
Yeah.
Yes, cannabis helps with the opioid crisis, and they know it. We know it. Everybody knows it, or that needs to know it, we hope. But no, they've decided that they're not going to license us to do this. At least they've said that in a month from April 22nd, that they will be denying us our license, although we have time for further submissions on that. It was a fairly long letter that they sent. Essentially, they say that the two main reasons is that our supply is not legal. They're not trying to work with us, by the way. They're not looking for solutions to how they can license us. They're trying to they spent all of this time trying to find excuses so that they won't license us. Because in our application exists the application for our trusted long-term suppliers who have demonstrated for all of these years that their products are safe. We want them to be licensed. We think they should be included in Health Canada's licensing of producers. And why wouldn't they be? They have a proven track record. So that's in there. Also, what's in our application is that we would like to have the LPs be able to donate the product to us that they would otherwise be destroying.
Yeah.
And that includes the dispensaries. They all have to destroy anything that they buy in the way of samples that the store has to pay for and then destroy. They can't see anything ahead of time. They don't send them any free samples. Who do you think is paying that cost? You think the store owner is just going to roll over and take that out of his personal savings, or do you think he's going to add it to the pricing somewhere? Or is it already in the pricing? I'm sure it's already in the pricing. In any case, so we have tried to address that in those two ways, but there's a third way as well, and that is that we've suggested that we get several of our clients, of our members, to be qualified by a doctor, although I'll get to that in a minute. And then members of our society, we have a society that houses the Cannabis Substitution Program, that's the Serious Hope Society, that we would be DGs for those people.
Yeah.
And that if there's excess, and hopefully there would be, that excess can be donated to the program. It would be legal product. So those three avenues of legal product is what we've been pursuing. So I'm not sure why they're so concerned. But something I want to mention here is that there was never a problem with cannabis hurting people before legalization. That was not a thing. They didn't legalize cannabis because the government needed to come up with some safe supply for people because there was poisoned cannabis and people were being harmed out there and our hospital wards were full and people were dying or whatever. No. Gray market cannabis, black market, green market, whatever you want to call it, illegal cannabis, prior to legalization, was not significantly harming anybody.
No.
There's only just a small rumor that there's a tiny percentage of people that had some sort of compromised immune system that maybe had some issues with some pesticide residues or something like that. Personally, never met any of those people. I believe that's a possibility, but it wasn't a thing. It wasn't like, public health emergency. We got all these people being harmed by cannabis. What's the government going to do? We're going to come up with a safe supply for you people. That was never a thing. In fact, when the government legalization happened, it wasn't too long after that there were lawsuits against some of these producers for some of the pesticide residues and harmful things that were in the cannabis that they were selling. In fact, there are legitimate, backed up, documented reports of over 75 people being harmed by organogram, by their cannabis.
By their cannabis,
So, it wasn't a thing that the illegal cannabis before legalization or after legalization is harming anybody. It is a thing that government cannabis can harm people. Who thought that you could grow cannabis that would actually be poisonous? And who thought that you could actually be a cannabis company and lose money?
Oh.
No, these people screw things up so badly. I don't understand. But anyway, and on that note, I mean, these companies that are losing money, the owners of the company, the boys up top, they're not losing anything. They got all the money from all the shares that they sold. Now the shares are being devalued. They've sold most of theirs. The people that bought the shares are the ones losing the money. So it's still average people again, losing money, not the big boys up top. That was part of their scam. The government doesn't lose any money on weed because they just take taxes on every step of the way. And that's ridiculous. And it certainly would be ridiculous for what we're doing in providing cannabis for people to get off of opioids because, the government wants a cut of that? The government wants these poor, helpless, struggling, trauma-ridden people to be paying tax that prices it out of reach for them? So that's ludicrous that would be going on. I mean, the doctors thing is ludicrous as well. Doctors should not be gatekeepers of a full-grown adult getting access to a natural herb that grows on the planet. What the hell? You want to put a bunch of chemicals together and stamp out a pill that's got all kinds of toxic, nasty side effects, then okay, you can have doctors be the gatekeeper of that. You shouldn't probably put that just out into the public.
Yeah.
But a plant that grows wild in nature and has been around for thousands of years, used medicinally for people with all sorts of medicinal properties that you can't even overdose on, what the hell would you have a doctor in between a sick person and a supplier for?
It's crazy.
So now the government is telling us that we have to get a legal supply of cannabis and that we have to make sure that all the people that we help with cannabis have a doctor supporting them. Can you imagine? Doctors don't support people in using cannabis. That's the rarest thing of all.
Mine does.
Well, some people found one.
Yeah. Yeah.
How easy was it for you to find him?
He's been like that way, but he was dead against it before, but I've changed him.
Most doctors won't even talk about cannabis.
And now the doctor that's in his office is now also on board with cannabis too, because he's hearing from his older patients that there's no side effects. They're feeling better and there's no side effects. So now he's on board too. Slowly,
some of these ethical doctors are finding out the truth, and they're not so anti-cannabis. Most of them want nothing to do with it because they know it's going to get them in trouble with the college. They don't want to take a risk of their license being pulled.
Yeah.
They're not willing to talk about it with people. I've spent lots of time and energy trying to find doctors that will qualify the people that we're helping.
I think that the colleges are now letting the doctors prescribe it to a legal company like Aurora or Tweed, right?
But with a 3 to 5 gram limit.
Oh yeah, probably, yes, yeah.
So I've talked to some doctors in my pursuit of doctors that will help us qualify some of these people. And they are not willing to go beyond that 5 gram limit.
Yeah.
And we're dealing with people that are on high amounts of opioids and other street drugs. They require high doses to replace those things. Getting through withdrawal is a tough thing to do, and people require high doses of edibles to do that.
Yeah.
So
I was thinking that what about having a video, a document of somebody who's using their daily use of crack, and then you stop them until they get to the point where it's going to be withdrawals, and you give them that edible, and it's all there. Because all we have is testimonial from people, but if we actually had a video where 24 hours of a person who used a needle or smoked crack or whatever, let's get them, take it away, we'll supply all their stuff so we know that that's what they're getting and it's safe, and then take it away, let the withdrawals come in.
I think it's a wonderful idea, Glenn.
Right.
filmmakers out there, there's a project for
You're
you.
going to need somebody from here, though.
I'm not a filmmaker.
No, but you need somebody. You would know the people that would be comfortable to prove how cannabis
probably
could change their
find
lives,
that person.
right? Yeah.
You know, and this is another thing is I don't like to pry into the lives of these poor people. It's none of my business, and I don't like to do that.
All you can do is ask.
I'm being asked by the government to get all these people to tell me the reasons they're using cannabis, to tell me the reasons that they can't access it, to just pry into their lives, to get them to tell me information about their journey and their life. I'm willing to do that if it's going to try to get us licensed to save the program. We're going to try to get people to do that. I'm trying to get people to fill out affidavits for us.
Yeah.
Not an easy thing to do.
No.
People say that they will, but they don't. They walk away and they tell you they'll bring you back something, and then they don't. No. And you can't expect much more. These are struggling people. The government's asking us to require the most vulnerable, struggling people to function.
Yeah.
And if they can't, then they can't get access to the medicine that they need. It's just insane.
It is really.
On another note, those people that can't get a doctor to go along with them, those people that wouldn't give me their identification and information if I asked them for it for a variety of different reasons, that is some of the most vulnerable and needy population that we have that needs to have access to cannabis. They also can't walk into a government store, and we already talked about the prohibitive pricing. But, most government stores require ID, not all of them, but most of them do. And lots of people that are struggling don't want to provide that. They're afraid to give the government their name and number for damn good reason.
Yeah, because
they don't want to give anybody their name and information because many of them are struggling with addiction privately.
Yeah.
Nobody knows. Their family doesn't know. Their workplace, the co-workers, their church, their communities don't know. Nobody knows. They don't want to be putting up their hand or identifying themselves or showing you some ID or even being asked. They don't want to be asked. So, I think I went this way, Glenn.
I got it.
Oh, do you?
Yeah, it's just the short fingers. I keep thinking that they're there, and then I drop it.
Phantom fingers.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that is an extremely vulnerable and needy segment of the population that we are very happy to be able to help here. And, not happy that the government has decided that those people don't deserve any help because they're not willing to give up their name or their information or be tracked, or whatever else that they're afraid of. And the government can screw off on that. And, I've also been advised that perhaps it's not doing my cause much good to be venting about my unhappiness with the government and telling you that they're corrupt, that all they care about is money, that they're only trying to protect the interests of the corporations.
The old growth people are venting. Why can't we vent?
Well, I've just been advised that because I'm asking for something from Health Canada, that, I shouldn't be trying to bite the hand that I'm expecting to feed me.
Oh, okay.
Well, what am I supposed to do? Just, quietly bend over, drop my drawers, and, allow for penetration repeatedly without making a sound?
I don't think
we've
so.
been a year and a half waiting for a corrupt government to get off their flipping butts and do something. At the very least, this is gross negligence to allow our application to have gone unsupported in a year and a half.
Yeah.
It's criminal to go a year and a half and then try to deny us. Like, are you kidding me? What do you expect, Health Canada, in denying me? That we're going to stop the program now? Is that what you're going to tell me? You're not going to give me a license, so I have to stop the program now? Because that ain't going to happen.
No.
And then what are you going to do, Health Canada? You're going to send in the RCMP? You're going to send them into the city of Vancouver? What do you think the city of Vancouver is going to think of that? I hope that eventually, before too much longer, the city of Vancouver, who had the balls to stand up and pass a motion unanimously to support what we're doing, are going to say, enough already.
Yeah.
They've been waiting a year and a half for Health Canada to do something to support them, and they're not getting it. The city needs to support us.
That's not going to happen this year because there's a mayor. It's a new election this year, I believe, in October. So they won't do anything now until we see who takes over.
Well, we're not going to stop anyway.
No,
but
and hopefully the new mayor knows about you and
hopefully there's a new mayor because Kennedy Stewart has been disgusting.
Yeah.
I asked for a meeting with that man before he was elected mayor. Like the week leading up to it, I figured he was going to be the one. And I asked for a meeting with him. I asked for a meeting the day after he was elected. I went to City Hall. I went to his office. I asked them to, give me an appointment for a meeting. We'll get back to you. They never got back to me.
Never got back to you.
4 times in total. I asked for a meeting and never got one.
You would think he would get you one because he's had somebody in his family die of a drug overdose also. You'd think he'd be right on ball on top of that, right? You know,
Glenn, if logic and reason ruled the day, we would not have had 100 years of cannabis prohibition, I'll tell you. Logic and reason do not apply here. This is about corruption and money. It's all a big money grab by the governments and a money grab by corporations, and they don't give a shit about people. And it may even be worse than that. It might be that they actually hate these people, that they hate cannabis consumers, that they really hate the hard drug users, and they're happy with us dying. In fact, they don't mind giving it a little push. It might be even that.
Well, yeah, I thought that too.
Yeah, I thought that too.
They don't care, right? They look at these people are a burden on society. They're robbing people. They're doing all the kind of crimes and stuff like that. So they really don't.
They think that these people, if we want to call them these people, I use in those terms too, but those people think that those people are the same as them.
Yeah.
They think you're the same as me. You could have easily made better choices in your life. You didn't have to end up down here. You're just a scummy person. You're a bad person. You've got bad genetics, whatever. You made bad choices. You deserve what you're getting. That's what they think. They have no clue. The struggles that people have gone through in their lives, many of these people that we're talking about. The people in the these people group, you don't want to be one of those, I'll tell you. Because they have suffered trauma that would curl your hair and probably you would not survive it. I don't know how many of these people have survived to where they are today with the stories that we hear and the things that I know that they went through. And that is the common thread through most of the people that are suffering from addiction, be it to drugs or be it to other things, is they were traumatized in their life.
Yeah.
They've had things happening that you can't imagine, that they can't explain. And you just have to understand that that's the case. And you have to understand that they're trying to do the best they can for themselves, that their journey has been one decision at a time like everybody else, and moment by moment, decision by decision, they did the best they could.
Yeah.
They did what they thought was right or what they just were compelled to do, and people make mistakes anyway.
Yeah.
Nobody's perfect. If you're on this side of the fence and you're looking at those people saying, those are scummy bad people made bad choices, you're just lucky, that's all. You don't know how lucky you are. You don't understand. You could be over there like that, had something happened in your life. Just one little incident could send you over there. So, these are the abused children primarily of our society. These are the adults and grown-ups that have suffered trauma beyond what anybody could be expected to tolerate and handle.
They pass it on to their children.
And they don't just fade away and die. They continue living, but they're trying to cope. And in trying to cope, they're trying to find all sorts of things that will help them. And we need to be sympathetic to those people and compassionate to those people. As long as they're not hurting somebody else, we need to try to help them do whatever it is they want to do. And if what they're doing is more harmful than not, then let's tell them that. Let's explain that properly. But let's not do it through a corrupt lens. Let's not do it through wanting to make money off of them or seeing them as nothing more than a dollar sign or as a bad person that needs to be eliminated. Let's do it with compassion. But for the grace of nature, there goes any one of us. Could be on this side instead of this side.
Yeah, at any time.
At any time.
Yeah.
These corrupt governments that, they're the ones who are being paid to be compassionate, to understand that.
They're supposed
That's
to
my big beef here. That's my real frustration. Is Health Canada is supposed to be about good things for people's health in Canada. That's what they're paid for. And I'll tell you, in the cannabis community, we call them Health Canada. Because it's like hell. It's just like dealing with the devil.
Yeah.
So there's another aspect to our pending denial by Health Canada. And that is that to get an exemption that we're asking for from the Cannabis Act requires one of three different things to be in play. Either you need an exemption because it's in the best interests of public safety, or you need an exemption because it's in the interests of research, or you need an exemption because it's in the public interest to have that exemption. And they say that we don't qualify for any of those. Well, I hope Mr. Conroy and Jack Lloyd are going to spend a bit of time articulating just how much this is about public safety, what we're doing here, and how much we're helping public safety. Having people come to us drug sick and doing whatever it is they do to get the drugs that they get, and providing them a free source of cannabis high-dose edibles, and watching them transform into normalish looking people with a bit of a jump to their step and a smile on their face and a how are you today and feeling good about themselves, all through the use of cannabis. We watched that over and over again. How can that not be in the interest of public safety to stop the break-ins, the petty crime that happens, the hospitalizations that happen to people as a result of the overdoses and the other health issues? How can this not be in the interest of public safety, public health and safety with what we're doing here? This is the very definition of a project or a program involved in trying to protect public health and safety.
And if we could bring somebody from the alleyways and give them back their life, they're going to go on into the community and tell their story, and it's going to spread out if we could turn these people's lives around, right?
Many of the people we've been helping are back to work in some limited or full capacity, paying taxes, contributing people in society. So, I mean, that could bring us to the public interest. How is this not in the public's interest to have low barrier access to cannabis? How is it in the public's interest to keep access to cannabis highly barriered? How is that in the public's interest? Providing low barrier access to cannabis is highly in the public's interest. We have major problems here in the city of Vancouver with alcohol. In rural communities, they have domestic violence going on because of alcohol. Lots of it. There's lots of problems with alcohol in our society. Cannabis use, in the case of my uncles, for example, who stopped using alcohol to go on to use cannabis, and many other people as well. How is that not in the public's interest? To have less people using alcohol and more people using cannabis? Ask the police what they would think if more people used cannabis and less people used alcohol. They'll tell you.
The cops would love it.
So how does that not in the public interest? And the third one, research.
We got the research.
Holy smokes, man. We started this store all about research. Before this store at Van Du, Dr. M.J. Malloy was doing research on our project there. We provided an environment for research is what we did. We gathered together hundreds of people to be researched. We provided them with something that had the potential to help them, and then we researched whether or not it did or not, and put out peer-reviewed papers on that.
But they don't believe it because they didn't tell you to do the research, right? The government didn't give you money, say, okay, go do this research.
Well,
so they don't.
There's a catch-22.
Right?
Until we prove that it's got research value, they won't give us a grant to do the research. But we did it anyway. Dr. M.J. Malloy did it anyway, and we did too. I've got hundreds of sheets of paper over there that while we were in the store, when people came to get their 423 milligrams, they had to fill out this form every time that talked about, right there. That was the CSP section. And people that came in, they had to take the time to fill out a 5-point questionnaire as to how it was helping them, what they were using it for, what the dosage was that worked best for them, had they had any problems. So we have hundreds of those sheets that we had filled out. When we got into the RV at the end of November, right, we weren't going to have people standing out in the wintry conditions filling out forms to get their 420. Andrew's just all by himself in the bottom end of that little RV there in his little cubby hole there. It wasn't feasible, and we didn't think it would take very long, and we'd be back in the store and we could continue with the research. So we stopped that. We stopped asking people to fill out the forms. We have hundreds of them, so there's that. But what we did do was we continued to record what people take every time they get their 420. So we can chart their usage of whether it's high CBD or THC, in what form they prefer it. So tailoring for each individual's needs, we have the research to be able to do that. And because we're doing it with hundreds of people, that research speaks to the possibilities and probabilities of other people that would be wanting to do the same. This is research, folks. That's what it is. Us providing this little cog here in this huge wheel is a great cog for research. That's what it is. We're bringing together the people from the neighborhood, and we can interact with them, and we can find out from them all kinds of different things, even if we don't ask them questions. Like charting what they take from the fort. We don't have to ask them anything other than, what do you want? What do you want? You want this, 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 and this. Okay, that equals 430 milligrams. You can have that. And then when they're gone, Andrew writes down what that member number took. So we know each member number and what they've taken every time, how often they've come, and what works for them. That's research. So Health Canada, like I say, they're not working with us. They haven't spent this last year and a half trying to figure out how to make this work for us. They haven't come to me and said, well, we have an issue over here. Would you be willing to do this to allow that to work? And I would say, well, why? What is the concern there?
Yeah.
Oh, the concern is people's health? Absolutely. We'll be food safe with all of our edibles or whatever it might be.
Yeah, the answer was...
Well, what's the answer? Well, it's going to unfairly compete with the government stores and we might lose customers. Well, you can go screw yourself. There's something wrong with the pricing at the government stores in that case. And that's not something that Health Canada should be concerned about. What is Health Canada doing being concerned about the financial interests of government cannabis stores? Why would that be their concern? That shouldn't be their concern at all. Their only concern should be, is this in the interest of public health?
Yeah.
And cannabis is 100% in the interest of public health. Probably even if it's poisoned by chemical pesticide residue, but
and then
except for the few people that would be harmed by that.
Irradiated too.
And it's irradiated, which doesn't make the cannabis very good, I don't think.
No. Well, I've never. Well,
a lot of foods are irradiated, by the way.
Yeah,
a lot of fruits and vegetables are irradiated.
Yeah.
So it's not a big deal as far as having things that have been through that process enter into your system. Or
but did you say that you saw blood before?
But when you look under a microscope,
yeah,
at the difference between what that landscape of trichomes looked like compared to what it looks like after it's irradiated, it's like a complete war zone happened.
Yeah.
Like all the beautiful resin glands are shriveled and just laying on the ground instead of up on their trichomes and being fed all those chemicals to make them what they are. It looks like something that you probably wouldn't want to smoke and consume. The other one is amazing.
Yeah.
You know, before irradiation, what the cannabis plant looks like is a fantastic, colorful forest full of these beautiful balls of resin. Man, it's fantastic.
My camera can zoom in on them now. It's really good, my camera.
And few people ever captured it better than Guppy and Bert.
Yeah.
That's for sure. Yeah. Well, so I think that's most of what I wanted to cover.
That's good.
We're going to respond to Health Canada. We're going to do our best to comply without turning anybody away. That goes for our producers and our clients, because it's important that the people that want to give back to this crisis be able to do that, and there shouldn't be any barriers by government to allowing them to do that. I should also mention that as part of our proposal to the government, not only do we have trusted long-time suppliers with a great track record and not one single complaining about any of the cannabis that we've ever put out here in over 5 years, but that I lost my train of thought.
No.
I hate it when that happens. I didn't even like this.
They never answered you with, okay, you can do this. This is a great idea. We want you to do this.
Right.
Yeah.
None of that.
No
conversation whatsoever.
No.
A year and a half later, a year after telling us that they would probably have licenses for us in early January over a year ago, but since then they've told us, fear not, Mr. Magnuson. Our team is working diligently on your application since the day that we got it. Fear not. Fear not.
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
I
think he thought he had the wrong guy on the phone. There must be another Neil Magnuson out there. The guy that's actually... there's probably a Neil Magnuson that owns a big corporate cannabis company or something.
Calls it NIEL.
Yeah, exactly. Something's off about it for sure. But, because, having an answer for us, turns out the answer they wanted to have for us was no.
No. Yeah.
And working diligently on it, not working diligently on it to say yes, working diligently on it to say no. They finally figured it out. They finally got it figured out. We can say no because their cannabis isn't legal.
We better stop him now.
And all their people that they're giving it to don't have a doctor saying okay for them.
He's going to save people's lives.
Yeah.
Oh my God,
shame on you, Health Canada. Shame on you. You're withholding a license from me because I continue to talk about how corrupt you are. Well, that's just the way it is. Screw you. Sorry about that. You're corrupt. I'm not. And I'm not going to shut up about it. That's not going to happen. And especially denying me. If that's your plan, is that you're going to say no to the Cannabis Substitution Program and the Healing Wave, and you think that's going to stop us from ranting about you? Got another thing coming there. You actually give me a piece of paper that says no, shut down, cease and desist, then you'll see what kind of action we're going to take here. Then you'll find out how loudly I can comment about your corruption and which media that I'm going to approach, because they're approaching me right now. I'm going to be on CBC coming up again this coming week talking about it. So, it's not going to stop. The talk about corruption is not going to stop until you stop being corrupt. You come up with some good reasons why we can't do what we're doing here because people are being harmed, because it's making the situation worse or something like that. I'm a logical human being. I can understand your reasoning if it's true, and I figure out that it's true. Absolutely, I'd stop doing what we were doing. If we're making the situation worse, we're hurting people, boy, I'd stop in a heartbeat. But we're not. And that's what we've been proving day after day after day. Every day, at the end of the day, I think to myself, another day where we successfully helped people get cannabis and nobody was harmed. Where's our license?
Changed somebody's life today. Yeah.
Oh, every day.
Yeah.
Every day. Every day. I've been working the RV every Monday now since they shut down the Blue Door. Another disgustingly horrible thing that they did here is shut down the Blue Door. Another access place for not just people in this neighborhood, but other people that knew they could come into this neighborhood that don't know about us. And, now, the CSU just said, screw you to all those people that were using cannabis products from the Blue Door that now can't find them or can't afford them or whatever, right?
Yeah.
Screw you, government, screw you, Health Canada. I'm not biting the hand that feeds me. I'm biting the hand that ain't feeding me.
Yeah.
The hand that's supposed to be feeding me. The hand that we're paying to feed me. That's the hand I'm biting because it's not feeding me.
And all you want to do is save lives.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't understand that either. But we're here to keep fighting.
We are.
We're not going to stop.
So that kind of concludes our... No, it doesn't, because I want to talk a little bit about CannaMatch.ca.
Oh, CannaMatch.
I always want to talk about CannaMatch.ca because it is really, really important. This whole so-called legalization has divided our community quite severely.
Mm-hmm.
It's really put it down. Although 420, I got to tell you, that was a hell of a well-attended rally.
It was very
Obviously,
well
there's a lot of support, and people do want to be, communicating and getting together with other like-minded cannabis people. And that's the beauty of CannaMatch.ca. It allows people to get together with other people, to meet a new group of friends, to find other sources for cannabis, and sure, to find a mate as well. I mean, that was the main idea, I'm sure. But it's far more than that to me.
Beyond that, yeah.
It is far more than that.
Against anybody, couples, singles, whatever.
Groups.
But yeah, it's all cannabis.
It's not just about sex, folks, and that's my point.
It's friendship, bringing people together.
It's bringing people together. It's friendship.
Yeah,
and it's wonderful if you can find a mate there too. I mean, love is rare. Love is hard. If you find it, hang on to it, cultivate it, make the best of it. Don't throw it away. But it's far more than that. And our community, the cannabis community of cannabis consumers worldwide, needs to be able to communicate with each other and get together with each other.
Yeah.
So CannaMatch.ca, check it out.
Yeah, and like what I used to say is that you don't have to lie to somebody for 6 months, fall in love with them, and then tell them that you smoke pot, and then they say, well, why did you lie to me for the last 6 months? And now the whole thing is just ruined, right?
It's not just about pot.
No.
It's about all kinds of things that people hide from each other when they're first getting together.
Let's just open up.
And if you're getting together with somebody, the first thing you're doing is having a session.
That's going to work.
You're probably going to talk about those things that are important in the relationship.
Yeah.
The ice will be broken, the smiles will be there, the hearts will be exposed, and you'll be able to talk about the things that matter.
You'll never have to ask, hey, do you smoke pot?
That's right. You're not going to have to one day say, hey,
Yeah, you're going to get together, you're going to smoke a big fat one, and then you see how your life goes. Yeah, meet a new friend.
All
right, we'll see you next week, sir.
All right, Glenn.
All right.
And have as much fun as you can out there.
I will.
Love your friends and embrace life. Love every moment.
Give your children an extra hug.
Always.
You never do. You never know, right? You never know. All right. We'll see you later.
See you later. So the Cannabis Substitution Program has been the center of my activism in my life for quite a while. You just heard about the journey to get there. That's not quite the end of the story. Early on into doing the Cannabis Substitution Program at VANDU, that's the Vancouver Area Network of Drug Users, an advocacy group that is funded by government, run by street users, for street users, to try to help with the oppression by street laws and other laws and policies that stigmatize and oppress these poor people. We were at VANDU for 3.5 years there, but within the first 6 months of starting the program, the success was very obvious. Long lineups of people, very thankful every time we came back. and lots of reports about how well it was working for people and how it was benefiting their lives. So within the first 6 months, one of the board members of Vandu went to Victoria, on Vancouver Island. He was involved with a group like Vandu there called Solid, and they started a cannabis substitution program there, and very quickly had more success than us with respect to the support from the city and the police, and they've been operating there ever since, and doing a fine job of it. We also had another good friend of mine who was helping me out on the Freedom Tour back in the days in Halifax. He liked what we were doing here, Chris Backer, and he understood the needs in his community as well, that a program like ours could really help people there. And he started the Cannabis Substitution Program in Halifax. That's over 2 years now that's been going strong. They deal with over 100 people every time, once a week, in front of a school, an old shut down school there in Halifax. And no interference from the city, not much in the way of support either, as far as I know. But still doing his program and still doing a wonderful job there. Mary McCarty was our head baker here in Vancouver for quite a while. In fact, she came from back east pretty much just to work with us here at the CSP. And she really did work with us. She took on all the different needs that we had for baked goods. Not that she was the only contributor, not at all. We've always had a variety of people donating to us. But Mary was the one who made sure that if we were short of cookies, we got cookies. If we were short of brownies, we got brownies. If we were going to try something new, I mean, she was just awesome. But family issues dragged her back east, back to London, Ontario. But of course, there was a big need for this program there as well. And Mary being Mary, didn't take long before she started that program up there and got it going successfully. And then family matters again dragged her a little farther west, coming back to Winnipeg anyway. And so the program continues on in Halifax. William Hicks and many other people that help him there have been keeping the program going. They're into the second half of their first year now. And so that's amazing. And Mary in Winnipeg started doing the same thing, thanks to a huge donation from Legacy 420, who's been so good to the program in all of our different cities. She's been able to hand out hundreds of care packs in Winnipeg for the last month or so. Getting low on donations. All of these places really need ongoing donations and new donators all the time. Donations is how the program works, so if you can, please do. And that's, you can find those people, William Hicks in London, Ontario, Mary McCarty in Winnipeg, Chris Backer in Halifax with the East Coast Cannabis Substitution Program. And, help those people do what they do, and we can all move this forward. And eventually, I believe, I have serious hope that we are going to have low barrier access available cannabis and low barrier access available to producers in the marketplace here. And this is the way we're going to get it, is by continuing to just do it. It has to happen. It can't stop. And we need more of it. So, if you're considering doing something like that, then I would highly recommend you do that. And, consult with me freely. I'm open to anybody that wants to talk to me about what's required to make it work. And that's pretty much a relentless organizer and a dedicated donator or 3 or 4. But there are other things as well. There are some logistics to doing it properly and getting to be able to be sustainable and pretty much bulletproof as best we can. I still feel that we're powerful here and that the RCMP are not going to be sent in to shut us down, that we have municipal politicians on board, a lot of them, and we have provincial politicians on board. We have federal NDP people on board. We have all the harm reduction groups that have a say here on board. We have lawyers, doctors, professors, other healthcare professionals, and a whole lot of citizen support as well. So I think that we will be able to continue until we get permission. I'm not sure how much we have to demonstrate for how long. I guess we're going to find that out. But so far it's been over 5 years that we've been demonstrating the success of this. And what we've also been demonstrating is the level of corruption involved, because the success of this program should have quickly and easily dictated that we get a license and supports from all levels of government. But the fact that we've got them from all levels of government except the federal government, and the federal government seems hell-bent on not giving it to us, is a real indication of just how corrupt things are and how much more work we have to do in this world to be free people in a proper democratic society with public servants who are paid to protect the individual rights of sovereign citizens and to protect those rights from the corporations that would enslave us and gouge us and exploit us if not regulated properly by governments who are supposed to be doing that. And so that's the world that we're looking for. At this point, I think we'll just go and check in with the Healing Wave and see what's going on with those people out there in the CSP Healing Wave Ganja Mobile, like we always do. And let's see what's going on in Vancouver. It's a little more drizzly and overcast and rainy than it was last week, and that's just Vancouver for you. They don't call this the wet coast for nothing. But here we are in downtown Vancouver, and there we have the Healing Wave Ganja Mobile RV. I think it needs a wash. Well,
oh, you found me again.
Found you again.
I always stop here and share one.
Nice. This is the back door entrance. I'm not sure if we're going to get any results here. We probably will. Andrew's not with us today. He's having some stomach issues, so we gave him the day off. But we still help people. Just because Andrew's not here doesn't mean the program stops. Never. Not at all. Not a chance. We're here 6 days a week, 8 hours a day, making people or giving people access to high-dose edibles. This is the CSP door. You see I got my signs here. I mention it every week. I like the signs. I like to let people know that are driving by just what's going on. But for those people that are members, that have a membership number, they can come here and they can go like this. Let's see what happens. With Andrew here, it might be a little bit of a delay. We've got the friendly giant instead of the little gnome. That's how that works. Oh, and here we go. Hey, the friendly giant. How are you, George?
Surviving.
Surviving, yeah?
Surviving.
Looking rather dapper today. Got your cannabis culture hoodie on there.
Had to stay warm, you know.
Yeah, looking
Gotta
good.
have the hoodie to keep warm.
Representing. So yeah, this is the CSP door. And what happens when people knock on the door, George?
I open up the door and I say hello, and then I ask them their number.
Right. And if they have a number.
And if they're a number, I check the book to see how long it's been since they've had their last visit.
Right.
And if they're 4 days or greater, then they get to choose some stuff for $4.20.
Right on. And what do you have for them to choose?
Well, today we're pretty slim. We're down to gummies and cookies today.
I see. Well, no, we have caps.
Well, we have caps, but yeah, but for the most part, people have been screaming, we want brownies, we want brownies.
And
So,
gummies.
Yeah, well, we have gummies. So.
We have some on the way. There is people that have been commissioned to bake some stuff for us now, and so we're and thanks a lot to FECOplaybook.com again for a very nice, generous donation that's going to really help us and those other projects as well. And we will have more stuff next time. So, all right, George. Well, I guess that's it. Thank you. You're not going to let us see the tray?
Not much in the tray right now.
Not much in the tray.
Some gummies at the
Oh, we got some Green Wilderness stuff. We got some Gorilla Ganja stuff.
We got some Keith caps.
Keith caps. We got some Dirty Dave caps.
Yeah.
Robert, someplace in Neverland, had a power surge through the building that wiped out all of the appliances, so they're unable to bake for us for a little bit, but the insurance is covering all of that, and it won't be too long we'll have stuff back from him as well. So that's what's going on with that. All right, so we'll see you inside.
Yeah.
All right.
Run back.
Hi, Lord. Good to see you, buddy. I know you're sad too, man. We're all sad today. I know. Hey, Jen.
Hi.
Hi. How's it going?
Good, how are you?
Pretty good. Anything to report?
I had a guy get me to put the muffin right in his mouth for him today.
Wow.
I had to watch him spit the paper out. That was interesting.
Did he have no arms?
No, I guess he was excited to do it.
He wanted you to do it, eh? Feed me. Next up, we're grapes.
I already act like a mother anyway, so might as well. Here you go. Here comes the plane.
Some people we will feed by hand, like they're little chicks in the nest.
I'm just not just gonna chew it up though first.
No, you're not going to chew it up and regurgitate it for them. Only certain people you would do that for. All right, well, we're coming inside.
All right.
Okay. Oh no, I can't sit there. I can't sit there. George is doing double duty, and that's his seat. So I'll go back into my own seat here. Feels a little nippy in here today. Got a nice sunny day like we have had. We're probably verging on being too hot again. It's been quite the run here in the RV. We've been in here for over a year and a half now. Of course, we do go home at night, but and most of the staff also gets one of those days off during the week. But no, 8 hours a day plus in this RV, trying to do what we do to help people here. It works, you know, we've made it work, but it's not the store. And it's very frustrating for us because in the store, you know, having had a taste of that and what that's like, to have a real nice, comfortable, safe space for people to come into where they can see all the different products that are available, where we have enough people to take time to talk to them at different stations and all of that. Having that really spoiled us, and to have to try to do all of that from an RV has been tough. And mostly because we know that we're not getting the same attendance. Like the amount of people that were coming to the store are more than the people that have ever come to the RV. The population of people coming was growing constantly at the store. We could see how it was really catching on in the neighborhood. And so for us to be here, we know that we're missing a lot of people that would otherwise like to be able to come and get what they need, and they don't even know that they can come to the RV, for example, or maybe they don't want to come to the RV because it's a little sketchy, or you know, it's out in the elements and we don't even have a roof to put over them or anything. And
well,
so
some days you put a roof out for them.
Yeah, I do put the tent out there, you know, to try to make it a little bit easier for people. There's nothing at the back door for the CSP people, and sometimes there's a lineup for them as well. But it's just, you know, maybe I'm not trying to grasp at straws to find things to complain about. I mean, this is serious. We're missing people. There's people that are not being served the way that they should be served by having easy access to cannabis, and that's just that for that. We're missing people here in Vancouver, in this neighborhood, but there's neighborhoods all across Canada where nobody's got easy access to high-dose edibles and to proper, affordable cannabis. And that's killing people. That's resulting in people living miserable lives and ending up dead and ending up using other drugs that are tainted and poisonous. And so it's very frustrating for us, and you know, it's really taking its toll. I don't know on my staff, but it is on me. And now to have Health Canada suggest that they should deny us because somehow our cannabis isn't safe enough to be giving people to offset the use of the other drugs out there on the streets. Like, this is completely ludicrous. I would put the cannabis that we have here up against any cannabis in any government store any day of the week, and we would win. Our cannabis is grown by people who really care, not huge mega producers that are trying to use fertilizers and pesticides to maximize their yields that don't give a shit about people. We have people supplying us who really care about the product that we're putting out to people. They understand that we're dealing with a vulnerable population here, and the cannabis needs to be good, and it needs to be flushed properly, and it can't be full of pesticide residues and other things like that. The people that are providing us the CSP care about the people that they're helping. The people that are providing cannabis to the government stores care about how much money they can make and what they can get away with.
Well, does the government actually have any quality control? Do they test any of their products themselves?
They say that they do. They say that they do. In fact, their whole thing was about public safety with cannabis, and that's why it all has to go through these tight regulations with these LPs.
So I wonder who's designated to test the government product.
Yeah, I don't know. I think it's just testing equipment that.
So nobody actually tests it to make sure it's actually.
Yeah,
good.
they might. I don't know. I can't. I don't know. I don't work for the LPs. I don't talk to too many people that do. Maybe somebody out there, if you've been working for an LP, you can tell me, how do they test their stuff? What do they test for? Who is it that's doing the testing? Does the government have any access to those test results? Do they demand access to those test results? I would like to know all those things. But really what I'd like is just for the government to get the hell out of the way here, to let retailers determine whether or not the products that's being offered to them is suitable for sale or not. For people that are compromised immunely and have to be careful about what they consume, I'm sure that there would be retailers that would cater to those people's needs as well, and those people could cater to their own needs. And I'm sure there's testing equipment that we could find and make that would be handheld and cheap, and people could just go and zap the cannabis they're thinking of buying and see what it tests out for themselves. I don't know. But I do know that the government's not trying. They're not trying to make these things happen. They're not trying to make these things a reality. They're trying to put roadblocks up. They're trying to put obstacles up. They're trying to delay as long as they can. And then in the end, they're going to say no anyway. And if you don't like it, you can sue them and you can take it to court. And maybe we'll do that. But maybe it'll be years from now before that actually happens. And in the meantime, people are dying. People are not getting proper access to cannabis. And the government doesn't care. And we should care that the government doesn't care. That's for damn sure. I'm not going to pull down my pants, bend over and say, go ahead. I'm not going to say a word to anybody about this. I'm going to scream to the world that you're screwing us in the ass. You're not helping people. You're killing people. You're not allowing us to help people. And that is criminal in itself. And it needs to stop. So Health Canada, if you don't like me talking about the corruption that must be involved in the decisions that you're making because of how corrupt those decisions are, then stop it. Stop it. Take the high road. Do the right thing. Allow low barrier access to cannabis. Anyway, that's all I got to say. I got to thank a bunch of people. I want to thank Neil, your back, and your front. Both of those are good.
How do you know how good his front is?
I've seen his front and his back. They're both good. And, all the people that donate to this program, there's a lot of them over the course of time. We mention a few of them sometimes. The rest of you, you know who you are. If you need me to tell the world who you are, please let me know that, and I'll happily do that.
If you remember.
But I would remember. I'd write it down. I'm going senile, but I can still remember to write things at the moment that they're in there.
Sure.
Anyway. Thanks to everybody that has and everybody that will help us and help this situation. The donators have been fantastic. That's how it works. It's the only way it works. FECOplaybook.com and their donation today is going to allow for the project in Winnipeg to continue for a few more weeks, and I'm sure that's enough momentum to get even more going on, and that's just how it works. So donating is extremely important to getting freedom, low barrier access, community-based cannabis stores, and all that stuff. So thanks to everybody that does that. Thanks to everybody out there that, just makes a phone call or writes a letter or talks to somebody about it or cares in any way. Thank you for that. Let's continue to do that. Let's care about people, right? Like that's the best way to live, is caring about people and getting the vibes that come from that and the feelings of self-worth that you get for yourself when you do that. And the people in our lives, that we have, they're not forever. They're fragile and they can be gone in an instant. And I hope we all have a sense of that all the time. I heard the wise man say one time that every day you need to come face to face with your own mortality once or twice, just to keep yourself in perspective of what's going on here. And when we lose people that we love, we come face to face with our own mortality and our own fragility. And it's important to keep a sense of that. It's important in the embracing of life and the loving of life, which we have, and it's all we have is the life that we have here and all that entails. So, do your best to hang on to it. Everybody out there, be real careful. Be real careful. There's doorknobs, there's concrete ledges, there's trees, there's things that can hurt us if we don't walk properly amongst them. So be very, very careful. And for all of us, let's really appreciate the people that are still here. Let's appreciate the people that we've already lost. But the ones that are still here, don't have regrets. Don't have regrets. I know my son was regretting yesterday that he had wanted to spend more time with Bert and Talia, but hadn't found the time to do that. find the time if you can. If you love people, if you care about people, if you wouldn't like them to be gone from your life and not able to be visited and accessed, go do that. Go visit them, call them, think about them. You know, life is a strange thing. It's all we got. It's all we know. It's fragile. It's incredible. Do your best to keep it and help other people keep it as well. Just go have fun. That's my advice. That's what I tell everybody all the time. Just have as much fun as you can. Life, this could be the last day. Enjoy it. Make it the best you can. I'll end with one thing that I heard from Silken Lauman, although she wasn't the originator of the comment or the quote. But it was that life is a struggle to balance two very opposite things. On the one hand, you need to live your life like maybe this is your last day, and get as much enjoyment out of it as you can, and do all the things that you would do if this was the last day of your life. And on the other hand, live like you're going to live a long life. Make plans, take out mortgages, fall in love, all of those things, and live that balance. Life is all about balance, and that's one of the most important ones, is to live your life like this might be your last day, but to make plans and to build things for the future, because maybe you're going to live a long life. Let's do it. See you next week. Have as much fun as you can.